evening, sir. Good evening, classmate. My topic for today is diversity of cellular life. So, the overview. Robert Hooke and Anton van Leeuwenhoek were the first biologists to use microscope. Thanks to them, we can now see many things in which unaided eye cannot. Those things we can see with the aid of microscope are called microscopic, and these microscopic things cover almost every part of the earth. There are many living microorganisms which differ in size and shape, just a drop of water from a creek in Metro Manila or any town of city will reveal a myriad of very tiny microorganisms, just like what Leeuwenhoek observed in pond water with his simple microscope. This module focuses on classification of prokaryotes. So, sinasabi na si Robert Hooke and Anton van Leeuwenhoek is a first biologist to use microscope. So, sinasabi na pamamagitan ng microscope na ito is makikita natin kung anong itsura, kung anong size ng ating gustong makita. Objective. After going through this module, you are expected to identify the two prokaryotic groups, differentiate eubacteria and archaebacteria, classify bacteria according to shape, classify viruses as non-living organism or living organism. Discussion. The smallest and most common microorganism are prokaryotes. Prokaryotes were mentioned in the previous chapter, a single-cell, unicellular organism that lack nucleus. Size of prokaryotes range from 1 to 5 UM, making them smaller than most eukaryote cells, which may be 10 to 100 UM in diameter. May be a few exceptions to this common size of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So, sinasabi na ang prokaryotes is mas maliit sa eukaryotic, na sinasabing ang eukaryotic ay mas malaki kaysa sa prokaryotes. So, ang prokaryotes ay nagre-range sa size na 1 to 5 UM, samantalang ang eukaryote cell is nagre-range sa 10 to 100 UM in diameter. Yan po yung image ng prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. So, mapapansin natin na mas maliit ang prokaryotic sa eukaryotic cell. Classification of prokaryotes. Prokaryotic cell can be divided into two groups, the eukarybacteria and archaebacteria. Some biologists each group a domain, a level of classification higher than kingdom. The past of prokaryotes were called bacteria and were placed in the kingdom Monera. So, sinasabi na ang prokaryotic ay nahahati sa dalawang group. At ito ay eubacteria and archaebacteria. So, tingnan natin. Ang eubacteria is include a wide range of organisms with different lifestyle. There are so many varieties of this group and they found almost everywhere. Some of them infect large organisms and cause disease. Some lives in the soil, other live on plant. Common types of eubacteria is the E. coli, that lives in human intestines and cause a disorder. So, sinasabi ang eubacteria ay sinasabing malawak ang range niya, organism. And many varieties of this group and they're found almost everywhere. So, mayroon din siyang, ang large organism and cause disease niya is malawak din. So, sinasabi na ang common type of eubacteria is E. coli that lives in human intestines and cause a disorder. So, sinasabi na ang eubacteria is a common type of E. coli. So, ito ay nagiging effect nito sa tao is nagkakaroon ng disorder. So, archaebacteria. This microorganism look similar Archibacteria and Eubacteria under a microscope. The cell lack nuclei and have a cell wall. Archibacteria lack the peptidoglycan found in the cell wall of Eubacteria. So, sinasabi na magkaiba sila ng Eubacteria at Archibacteria. Ang Eubacteria is, mapapansin po natin, is madami siyang himol, yung nakalawit. Tapos po, yung Archibacteria ay lack of nuclei and have cell wall. So, may cell wall daw ang Archibacteria. Samantalang ang Eubacteria is wala siyang cell wall. Prokaryotes ay identified by their shapes, the chemical natures of their cells wall, the way they move, and the way they obtain energy. First one is a rod shape or bacilli. Can reduce themselves to oval and those spores and can remain in this dormant state for years. So, sinasabi na ang rod shape ay oval and tumatagal siya sa dormant ng years. Next one is the spherical or round ovoid shape. Beside bacteria are characterized of the basis of their shapes into the three classes: the spirochetes or spiral shape, spherical shapes, and rod shaped cell. Third one is Spirillum or genus of spiral shaped bacteria of the family Spirillacea, aquatic except of one species that cause of type of red bipe fever in man. So, sinasabi na ang spiral shape is parang siyang kagat ng daga sa tao. Gram staining. The cell wall of Eubacteria are the two different kinds. A method called gram staining is used to tell the difference. So, may pagkakaiba sila. The grain staining consists of two dyes. One violet, the primary stain. Yung violet is sinatawag nating primary stain. And the other red, the counter stain. Yung isang red naman ay tinatawag na counter stain. Bacteria cells with cell walls contain peptidoglycan can absorb only the violet dye, so they appear purple under the microscope. So, hinasabi na ang violet na iyon ay nagpapakita sa microscope ng kulay purple. These are the gram-positive bacteria. Other bacteria have sound outer layer of lipid and carbohydrate molecules. The extract layer absorbs only the red stain. These bacteria appear pink and said to be gram-negative. So, dito naman tayo sa movement. Some prokaryotes move the means of flagella, other lash of spiral towards and still other glide along the slimy layer. The prokaryotes do not move at all. Obtaining energy. Way of obtaining energy different among prokaryotes. Autotrophs like green plants and carry out photosynthesis when they found where there is plenty of light. They are called photoautotrophs. A group called cyanobacteria contain a bluish pigments of chlorophyll. The important pigments is photosynthesis. So, the important pigments daw po is a photosynthesis. Siya daw po yung difference among prokaryote autotrophs like green plants and carry out photosynthesis. Cyanobacteria are found in fresh and salt water, on land and everywhere in the world. A few species can withstand extreme temperatures such as hot spring or in the cold Arctic. The chemoautotrophs obtain energy directly from inorganic molecules. Energy can chemical reaction release energy. with the organism utilized. Some chemotrophs live deep in the ocean and obtain energy from the hydrogen supplied gas that flows into the hydrothermal vents of the ocean floor. The heterotrophs like us obtain energy by taking in organic molecules and they break them down by digestion. But prokaryotes and heterotrophs are heterotrophs. Many of this kind infect our food and release chemical that cause food poisoning. So, hinasabi daw po na many kind of infect our food and release chemical is nagkakos daw po ng pagkalason sa pagkain. The small group of bacteria can combine the autotrophic and heterotrophic ways of obtaining energy. They can photosynthesize, but they are also organic compound of nutrition. These bacteria are called photoheterotrophs. So, sinasabi daw po na ang small group of bacteria is combine the autotrophic and heterotrophic ways of obtaining energy. The photosynthesize, but they also need organic compounds. So, kailangan daw po niya ng organic compounds of nutrition. The viruses. Most biologists do consider viruses as living things because they do not have a characteristic of life. The size of virus is comparable to that of the large protein macromolecule. Large molecule. Yung macromolecule is a large molecule. Many viruses can be purified and crystallized, and like any chemical can be stored. This viral crystal can only become infectious when the vital particles they contain can invade a host cell structure. Can type of virus has a least two parts, and outer covering composed of protein subunits and inner core of nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is either DNA or RNA. So, sinasabi na ang nucleic acid daw po is either DNA or RNA, but not both. So, hindi sila pareho. Viruses are non-cellular and are not organized into cell-like prokaryotes. So, virus is sinasabi na non-cellular and hindi siya nare-recognize na cell-like ng prokaryotes. A viral particles may also contain virus protein, especially enzymes such as polymerase need a produce vital DNA or RNA. The structure of virus is not enough to consider the living things. Despite the fact the biologists do not include the virus as a living organism. The virus shows some sign of life when inside a living host. Viruses can multiply and evolve inside bacteria, plant cell, and animal cell. They cannot reproduce outside living cell. That is why they are called obligate intracellular parasites. The vital infection. Viruses infect all kinds of cell bacteria to human. They are said to be very specific. Viruses called the bacteriophage infect only bacteria. The tobacco mosaic virus infect only plants, and the rabies virus infect only mammals. Some humans, viruses infect only particular tissues. So, sinasabi natin na ang viral. So, viral yung pagkakaalam natin. Yung mga sumisikat na virus. The HIV or human immunodeficiency virus will enter only certain kind of blood cell. The polio virus reproduce only the spinal nerve cell. To cite a few examples of these viruses. So, the HIV is pamilyar naman sa atin yon, yung sakit ng tao na nakukuha sa ibang tao din. Halimbawa, nakipagtalik ka, tapos nakipagtalik ka ulit sa iba, tapos may tendency na makakuha ka ng ganitong sakit. So, yung sinasabi palang HIV is virus din na nakukuha. Ito pala ay certain kinds of blood cells. So, halimbawa, may tinurok sa may HIV, tapos napaturok sa'yo na very sensitive yung dugo mo. So, ibig sabihin, virgin pa yung dugo mo. So, may tendency na magkaroon ka din ng HIV. Hindi lang ito nakukuha sa pakikipagtalik. The poliovirus reproduce only the spinal nerve cell. To cite a few example of this virus. So, poliovirus is reproduce only the spinal nerve. Sa spinal nerve pala yun nakukuha. The mutation. Viruses are believed to have evolved after cells come into existence. New viruses are still evolving today. We often hear doctors say the virus had mutated. These mutant viruses are slowly evolving too. Mutation of disease causing viruses present medical problems because if vaccine is effective today, it may not to be effective anymore tomorrow. After mutation, we need flu shots every year because last year's shots may not be effective anymore this year. So, masabi ko lang po yung viruses is ngayon yung nararanasan natin, yung sinasabi natin coronavirus na nakakahawa sa ibang tao. Yung makukuha natin is nakukuha yung virus sa laway, sa mga hinahawakan ng tao, at nagkukos ito ng virus sa atin. So, hindi ko lang po alam kung may vaccine na sa ngayon ang Pilipinas para matigil na itong ating pandemya, para mapigilan na ang pagkalat ng virus. Cancer. Oncogenetic viruses cause cancer in an animal. These viruses carry genes disrupt the normal controls over cell growth and division. Cancer is primarily a disease of the cell cycle caused by the viruses. So, yung alam natin cancer is yung panlalagis ng buhok. So, hindi porket may cancer ka is marami ka ng virus. Oncogenic virus cause cancer. Yung oncogenic viruses cause virus pala in animal. Cause cancer in animals. Nakakakuha sa virus carry genes disrupt the normal controls over cell growth and division. Multicellular organism. The multicellular organism is composed of many cells, unlike the unicellular discussed earlier. This contains only one cell. So, one cell ang multicellular. Cell of multicellular organism are independent of each cell has a function to perform. Multicellular organisms have cell specialization or separate rules for each type of cell. The cells are specialized to perform function within the organism. The human body consists of different cell types with specialized function. So, yung multicellular is bukod niyang ginagampanan yung kanyang tungkulin sa mga tao. Ibig sabihin yung multicellular may kanya siyang ginagawa, nag-iisa lang siyang cell, nakaseparate siya sa lahat ng ginagawa ng ibang cell sa ating katawan, sa type of cell. Kaya siya may special na ginagawa at nakahiwalay ang kanyang role. The review. Direction. Answer the following. Different archaeobacteria and eubacteria. What is gram-staining produce? Different gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Thank you.